Hey everyone! Welcome to my channel. I'm Amy, and today we are making the first of our tasty Halloween treats for the month of October. And since I still have a whole bunch of apples, I decided to start this month off with two kinds of treats. We're making chocolate covered apples, and I'm also going to try my hand at some caramel covered apples. And on top of that, we're also going to decorate them with some sprinkles, chopped nuts, smashed up M&Ms. It's like cooking and making crafts all at the same time, and I am most definitely here for the challenge. So let's get cooking. Covered apples, they're all about the prep, because once that chocolate is melted or the caramel's ready, it's go time. So we need to get everything all set up before we start either of those. First, make sure to scrub the apples really well with a clean scrubby sponge or some paper towels, because we need to get that wax coating off. Yes, it makes the apples nice and shiny, but it can also prevent our chocolate or caramel from sticking to the apple. You want to dry them off really well and put all the apples in the fridge. Keeping them cold helps the coatings to set more quickly once they get dipped. Now we're going to get our decorations ready, starting with some chopped nuts. We have some mixed nuts that are already chopped up for us, nice and convenient, some almonds, and some dry roasted macadamia nuts. I did a quick rough chop on both the almonds and the macadamia nuts, so when we roll our apples in them, we don't end up with these huge pieces of almond or macadamia that fall off the apples because they're just too big. For the M&Ms, keep them in the fridge overnight so they're nice and cold. Pour them in a bag and then smack them a bunch with a meat mallet to crush them up. You could also avoid this step if you wanted whole M&Ms by getting the little mini ones, but there's something really satisfying about just smashing them, like tenderizing some beef, only it's chocolate. Anyway, put all your toppings in wide mouth bowls or even on plates, so there's plenty of room to roll your apples around. I've had my apples in the fridge for about an hour now, so they're plenty cold. We're going to do the chocolate apples first, so I'm preparing half of them and popping the others back in the fridge to wait. Dipped apples are like fruit lollipops, so we need lollipop sticks. I found these bamboo candy apple skewers online, and these worked perfectly. Remove the stems and insert the skewer into the apple at the top. Tap it on the counter a couple times to make sure the skewer goes at least halfway through the apple, but pro tip, don't impale yourself. Now it's time to get our chocolate ready. I'm using the double boiler method. Grab a medium-sized pan like this one and a largish glass bowl. The bowl needs to be able to sit on top of the pan without touching the water, and you only need about an inch or so of water in the bottom of the pan. Heat the water till it gets pretty warm and then put the bowl on top. Don't wait until the pan itself is really hot. We want the bowl to warm gently because we don't want to end up with broken glass from temperature shock. When the bowl's nice and warm, dump in one 11.5 ounce bag of chocolate chips. I'm using milk chocolate since I have mostly nice little tart Granny Smith apples, but you can also use semi-sweet or even dark chocolate if you like. Use a silicone spatula to move these around almost constantly, and as the water simmers and steams, the chocolate will melt. If the water starts to really boil, turn the heat down and keep it at a nice steamy simmer. Don't be tempted to use the microwave to melt chocolate because the chocolate can burn quickly in a microwave, which results in nasty, bitter chocolate, and it gets really dull when it cools. This double boiler method may take a few extra minutes, but you end up with beautiful, creamy, melted chocolate that never burns, it keeps its shine, and it coats more evenly. As soon as all the chocolate's melted and you can't see any more lumps of unmelted chocolate chips, pull this whole setup right off the heat, but leave the bowl on the pan so the chocolate doesn't start to set again too quickly. Now just grab the apples one at a time, roll them around in the chocolate until they're nicely coated. Hold them over the bowl for a moment so any really kind of excess chocolate drips back into the bowl, and then set them on a parchment-lined baking sheet. Work quickly though, because even still over the hot water, the chocolate will start to thicken up pretty fast. Although, if it does get too thick too fast, just pop it right back on the stove and gently melt it down again. The double boiler method is really forgiving since it melts everything so gently. When all the apples are coated, give the chocolate a few minutes, but we want to get these decorated before that chocolate sets completely. While it's still pretty sticky, grab each apple and gently roll it in the topping you like best. I am making one of each because I love them all. If it's chocolate, it is good in my book. Then set these apples to the side to set fully, which for me took about an hour. Next are the caramel apples, so I grabbed the next batch of apples out of the fridge and stuck them with the skewers, and then back into the fridge they went. For the recipe I chose, I need to make this caramel from scratch. So to a medium pot, I added 1 cup of packed brown sugar. I'm using a half scoop here, but it is 1 cup total. A 1/4 teaspoon of salt, 3/4 of a cup of heavy cream, a 1/4 cup of light corn syrup, and then 1.5 tablespoons of butter. Then we need to stir this with either a wooden spoon or a silicone spatula and heat it up over medium heat until the butter is melted and everything is well combined. Make sure to scrape down the sides of the pan anytime you see sugar crystals sticking on the sides. Now when the butter is melted, clip on a candy thermometer to the side of the pan or use an instant read thermometer and check the temperature very often. We need to boil this without stirring it at all until it reaches 248 degrees Fahrenheit. Okay, now this part is really, really important. Make sure you have a cup with some water and a pastry brush. Anytime sugar crystals start sticking or developing on the side of the pan, dip the pastry brush in the water and use it to melt any sugar crystals back down into the boiling mixture. If we let sugar crystals develop, it could cause a crystallization chain reaction and ruin the whole thing. It'll look like it's split. And no stirring. I know, it's really tempting, but this depends on not being stirred and not crystallizing. So just hover over this little caramel baby like a helicopter parent and keep melting crystals if they form and watch the temp. Once it gets to 248, pull this off the heat immediately, but keep the thermometer in the caramel. Pour in 1/2 tablespoon of vanilla extract, stir that up, be careful it's gonna bubble a lot, and then let the caramel cool until it hits 200 degrees Fahrenheit. As soon as it hits 200, tilt the pan so the caramel collects at the side and start rolling your apples. Okay, so this is where I started having some trouble with this recipe. Even though I scrubbed my apples to within an inch of their lives earlier and made sure their skins were as dry as the Mojave in high summer, this caramel just wanted to slide right off and almost refused to stick to the apples at all. This caramel also sets up so quickly that I was actually only able to get 3 apples somewhat rolled before it was just too thick to keep going. It also sets up into a really hard caramel, which is not what I was expecting, and made these apples extremely difficult to eat. I ended up cutting the side off one with a knife so I could try eating one without chipping a tooth, and the hard caramel just broke off completely, so I had a piece of apple and a separate piece of hard caramel candy. But on the bright side, this caramel is an awesome hard candy. So this recipe just wasn't my cup of tea for caramel apples because I prefer a softer caramel that sets on the apple but doesn't become rock hard like a thick candy coating. But as hard candy, this recipe is the way to go, and I'm totally going to use it for that purpose forever. I did spread the rest of the caramel on some parchment paper before it got too solid, and then broke it into pieces when it set in like 5 minutes, and it's amazing as candy, so yeah. Not great for apples, awesome to eat like a Werther's. And here we have them, chocolate and caramel covered apples. My favorite was the chocolate, mostly because they set the way I wanted them to. Flavor-wise, both are excellent, but next time I will be going for a softer caramel. And there will be a next time, oh yes, because I will not be defeated by an apple and some boiled sugar. Nope. The caramel threw down a challenge and I am not letting that stand. So don't be surprised if you eventually see another caramel apple video sometime in the future once I've won that battle. These apples are just so cool. Bake time, craft time, all in one, and these were so much fun to make. And the chocolate apples are so very, very easy to put together. Perfect for families to have a fun night together making these sweet treats. Or you could just make a batch for yourself and be a dipped apple hoarder. I won't judge. This is chocolate and caramel we're talking about here. Thank you so much for watching. I have to say my favorite was the almond chocolate, and my husband loved the macadamia nut chocolate, but they were all really yummy. I'll keep you posted on that caramel gauntlet that got thrown. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video, and leave me a comment below. Next week, we're making something near and dear to my heart, so stay tuned because you really don't want to miss out on that. And don't forget, come and hang out with me on Sundays for some lovely home-cooked, comforting meals and desserts. And I'll see you here next Wednesday for our next tasty Halloween treat. Bye!